Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/AskReddit by Planet Reddit. What makes a person boring? A bore is someone who deprives you of solitude without providing you with company. Oscar Wilde. Damn, that is pretty scathing and thought-provoking. No sense of humor and or sense of adventure. We all love a humorous adventurer. Talking about nothing but themselves. On the flip side, someone asking you so many questions that it feels like an interview. And when you try to turn the focus on them, they spike it right back. I'm guilty of this. It's due to lack of practice, a small degree of social awkwardness, and lack of sufficiently engaging responses from the other person. If they respond in a way that I can relate to, I have opinion stories ready to share about myself. But if they give short responses, my tendency is to keep hunting around with endless follow-up questions, to the point where it starts to feel like an interrogation. My friends kindly pointed it out to me with this suggestion. How about after you ask a question, you also answer your own question? It was a light bulb moment. It never occurred to me to answer my own question. Whoosh. Edit. There was a great point below. Answering your own question afterwards is better than interrogating. But volunteering your answer before asking the other person a question is the best by far. By making the first move to volunteer information, show vulnerability and trust, you create a warm and safer place for the other person to start sharing personal details about themselves. So flip the script. Volunteer some information and then ask the other person a question. I came here to be enlightened, not to be described. SMH. Haha, I wonder who all the boring people are. Duck. When they only talk about other people. Like talking shit about people is their only personality. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. Eleanor Roosevelt. If I have an apple and you have an apple and I share my apple with you and you share yours with me, we would still have one apple each. But if I have an idea and you have an idea and we share those ideas, we now have 2 ideas each. Michael Scott. I have no idea who said this, so. Having their personality centered around one single thing. And only that thing. Potheads and crossfitters. Edit. Yes. Not everyone who smokes weed is boring, but you know exactly which potheads I'm referring to. Crossfitters on the other hand. Ooh. I went to uni with someone who wore green t-shirts with the leaf on and drank Bob Marley energy drinks. I don't think I ever knew anything about him, other than he smoked weed. Agreeing with everything you say but never offering anything unique. I have this problem and don't know how to deal with it. If you give me 10 minutes, I could come up with something. But by then the conversation has moved on. Or perhaps it has stopped altogether. Even just writing this, I took some time to think if I wanted to comment and then what did I want to say. Edit. This got an insane amount of replies. And I just want to tell you, if you are reading this again, I thank you for taking time out to replying to me. In my head, I already know all the advice given. I nodded and went, "Yep, I already know this." But I was just too afraid. I needed someone to tell me, to validate my knowledge. And well, there were quite a lot of you who helped me. I took a leap of faith today, in an environment where I felt comfortable. In the beginning, I had people looking at me weird, only to find out they were just shocked and happy, saying how I was finally vocal for once. I still do feel like I messed up. Places where I could have said something better, more accurate, even though work was hours ago. But, baby steps, right? I have the same thing. It's anxiety that people won't like what you say or think it's stupid, which will result in people liking you less. So your brain just doesn't give you anything until it finds a sentence that everyone will be happy with. When I drink, I seem to have the perfect words for everything and it's effortless. When I smoke, I get a bit anxious, so I tend to go even quieter. One thing that helped me was doing LSD and realizing this was a thing. And that I can't make everyone love me without sacrificing being myself. But that's obviously not for everyone. When they agree with everything you agree with, you need to have your own opinions. This salad is excellent. I hate this restaurant and I hate your stupid face. Sally. Sally loves salad. Silly. One-dimensional personalities. Like the always negative guy. The I only talk about work girl. Or the all we do is talk about our pets or children couple. You get the gist. I think this is the best summary I've read on this thread so far. I'm just glad I didn't have to scroll far to see a job talker on the list. Like no one cares about your work and the people at it. Lady. Having zero interests outside of work. Edit. Didn't realize this was such a problem. Thought it was just my so and me. I had no idea people were in such a serious rut. Bless you all for all the work you do. What about having zero interest in work? That would describe me. What if your work is so many random things it's hard to explain, and when you do it sounds like you're a crackhead building shit to contact aliens? Then they ask the question, well, what exactly is your job title? And it's honestly like 7 words long that describes 1/10 of what you actually do. No sense of humor. Is this supposed to be a joke or something? Cause I'm not laughing. They said I'd never be a comedian. Well, they're not laughing now. If you have utterly nothing in common with them, chances are you bore them just as much as they bore you. Tends to happen most with friends of a friend. I ran a coffee, beer, live music, art gallery place for about 10 years, and I disagree. After talking to hundreds of people a day, many of them regulars, sometimes talking to some for seconds, others all day, I can honestly say that some people I found boring as shit that I may have much in common with, and others fascinating who I have nothing in common with. There are so many factors and combinations of factors. It could be passion or humor, but then some people without those attributes might be fascinating if they are brilliant or can find a way to make a normally boring subject interesting. Like a good teacher or professor. Others may be great storytellers, and thus very interesting. But about something you may not be interested in, like sports or rap, or parenting. If there's one thing that draws me to people, it's likely an interest in life. A joy of being alive. I'd like to believe that describes me. I know it describes my wife and our friends. And it makes me curious about speaking with and interviewing people to hear their thoughts on myriad things, and it compels me to keep trying new things and traveling to places I've not been. Anyhow. Great question. OP. And apologies for any major cellphone typos, grammars, edits. So many. I'd agree with this completely. The deciding factor seems to be enthusiasm. A love of the life that they live. If someone has a passion for what they do or what they enjoy, it just comes across and can turn something that I may consider uninteresting on paper into a genuinely interesting conversation. Relying on other people to make all decisions. I think I should upvote this. Should I? I don't know. You tell me. Not being passionate about anything. I'm passionate about being unpassionate. Not being able to have a meaningful conversation. I sometimes struggle with this. There are people I can talk to easily, without seemingly running out of things to say, ask. But if I feel I'm the one who has to initiate, I tend to get really wrapped up in my head about what to ask, say next. And then assume the other person must think I'm dull cause I can't chit chat like a regular person. Then I see other people who can talk to anyone about anything, and I'm like, was I sick the day they taught the talking like a normal person class at school? I have some similar problem. I can initiate, but if the other person does not engage, well, here's an hour of awkward sitting and watching at cell phones. My dad used to always say this. If you're bored, you're boring. I used to hate it. But there's some truth that the people in this world who are interesting are people who can find wonder in any situation. If you're bored, you're boring. The agony and the irony. They're killing me, WHOOO. Reminds me of the phrase interested is interesting. My interpretation is that you can have an engaging conversation with someone simply by listening to them and expressing interest in what they're saying. Make encouraging noises. Ask follow-up questions, etc. People with no hobbies skills. I remember always struggling to answer those questions. What are your hobbies? And in hindsight, I was just super dull and barely living. What are you into now? Watching porn. Today I learned I'm a boring person. My brain is pretty much screaming in agony after reading this thread because I could relate to some parts but not to others. So I can't tell if I'm boring, not boring, or even half boring. That means you can be boring to one person and very interesting to another. This is how it works, I guess. I've met people who everybody adored but they seemed completely boring to me. Honestly, a lot of it comes down to storytelling. I remember listening to one of my cousins tell a story, and I realized it was super boring but I was super interested. So I started paying attention to the way she tells stories. I like to think people are more interested in what I have to say now. But also I've had a pretty ducking crazy life so far, so there's a lot to talk about. What sort of approach did you observe with your cousin's storytelling? I've been told I tell good stories. Basically you have to keep it short. Progress linearly. Understand which context is essential and which is merely fluff and filler. It's okay to tweak the truth a bit for efficiency's sake but not to make someone else look bad. Not recognizing when no one is interested in what they're talking about. This skill is one of the worst to learn. Because you were always telling something you were excited about and realized no one else cared. I used to do this a lot with my wife. I'd find myself apologizing for boring her with stuff I was interested in when she was genuinely interested and actually listening to me. My exes hated the stuff I was passionate about and it made me apologies for being interested in something. No creativity. No original ideas. Everything is predictable. Originality really is key. I think originality is really key. Chronic medical conditions. I have no life outside my limited world. When they don't ever do anything spontaneous and act as if anything different unique is weird and embarrassing. Oof. This is the first one that's really got me. Also nothing worse than someone asking or expecting me to do something out of my comfort zone like karaoke or dancing. The second you want me to do it, it creates this imaginary pressure to me, and even if I might do it on my own, I definitely won't now. I get embarrassed way too easily at things that no one would consider embarrassing. This is an oddly specific response that resonated with me. I know what you mean by the imaginary pressure, and I also get embarrassed too easily. For example, blushing over nothing. It almost feels like people are constantly testing you. And once they see you're not comfortable in your own skin, you've officially lost face and are socially worthless. People seem to be obsessed with proving that they are confident, outgoing, spontaneous, etc. About 50% of this thread is people that misunderstand what the word boring means and comment on things that irritate them instead. I'm quite a boring person. I'm very talkative and have interests and hobbies that most other people don't have or can't relate with. So when I talk about them and in my mind I'm being very passionate, the other person listening is getting bored to death. Especially because I'm very old school, so most people perceive my interests as mom granny things. Which just adds to the lame boring vibe. Also I am not comfortable being silent and sometimes keep talking for the sake of it. This one gets so boring even my boyfriend admits sometimes he gets sleepy listening to me talk like that. If their identity is rooted in rejecting things they dislike, instead of embracing things they like, it makes a person small, unidimensional and disconnected from the world. Have you ever noticed how, when people communicate their unpopular opinions, it's always something they dislike? Disliking things has become a trend. Because by disliking something you risk absolutely nothing. By embracing something unpopular you do. And you actually become an individual. Edit. Thanks for the silver. Unknown benefactor. You truly embrace the things you like. Colon. When the only thing you have in common to talk about is schoolwork. Nice description. So, a guy with a lack of passion, even to simple things, like sport, will be probably a boring person. Alright, just describe me mostly, why don't you? Not wanting to do anything. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.